Hey everyone, Joe here. Thanks for joining me. And today we're going to do another subtle yet powerful image enhancement using Lightroom, but we're going to add a little bit third-party filter to add some extra pop to the image. Now, I chose a very subtle image. This is approaching sunset on a place called Eagle Lake in Acadia National Park. And there was just something about the whole shape of it and the reflection of the sky and the lake. It came in very flat, as most raw files do. But I wanted to bring it back the way I kind of felt I was seeing it. So let's go through the process of doing the edit, and then we'll add a little extra sauce to it at the end. We take a look at the histogram, and if you see up top here, it's pretty much going all the way from the left all the way to the right. So exposure was as good as it could be. Now, I did push the sky a little bit light because I wanted to have the shadows not be quite black. That will reduce the amount of noise in your images. But let's go ahead and do a little fix on this. First thing I'm going to do is bring the highlights down. In fact, I'm just going to bring them all the way down. And you can see, look, there's our sky coming back already. And then to counter that, again, this is a very high contrast scene. Let's bring the shadows all the way up. Now that makes it look a little flat, and that's okay. Stay with me. I'm also going to bring the exposure a little bit more. Okay, I really want to get those shadows. You can see now, you can see the details of the trees in the mountains in the back. And now let's go to add some vibrance and saturation. So we'll add some vibrance, and we'll add a little bit more saturation. And good. Now, yes, you're saying the image still looks flat, Joe. Yes, it does. We're going to deal with the foreground and the background separately. Now, first of all, before I go any further, this horizon line's bugging me a little bit. So let's go ahead and hit the crop tool. And I'm just going to eyeball it with the crop tool and get it so that the horizon matches one of the crop lines, at least horizontally. And it's amazing how close you can get with your eye. If it looks straight to your eye, it's straight. All right, let's do the sky first. The sky is kind of light, so we're going to use Lightroom's sky masking tool. So we'll just click on that, and you can see it does a phenomenal job picking up the sky. So what do we need to do to it? Well, exposure-wise, let's bring it down a little bit, and I think it's going to need a little bit of dehaze. So let's click on dehaze. And oh, look at the color, how it's coming back. That is awesome. Now, I still think the blue is a little bit off. Do we want to do with that separately? No, I don't want to mess with the temperature slider because that gets rid of the color of the clouds. I think we're going to deal with that separately using a different slider. Do I want it a little darker maybe? Yeah, I think I do. I think I want to make the sky even a little bit darker to really get the drama of those clouds. And what else? Maybe a little clarity? Let's see. Nope, that really didn't do anything. Let's leave it alone. If the slider doesn't do anything, leave it alone because it's just going to add noise to your image. All right, we'll come back to that because I want to deal with the blue up here. Now let's do the same thing for the foreground. This time I'm going to create a new mask, and we're going to use a linear gradient. I'll start just below the horizon of the shoreline, and I'm going to drag up so that my 50% point is around the shoreline. Oops, I let go and flicked my wrist, so you come over here just to straighten that out. And we're going to do a couple of similar things. Let's add a little bit more contrast into that. Ooh, that might be all it needs. Maybe a little bit more. Let's see. Let's add a little more saturation to that as well. Yeah, just to do that. And maybe a little darker. Let's bring that down a smidge. Oh, I'm liking that. Now we've got a pretty good sky. We've got a pretty good reflection in the lake, but the mountains are flat and hazy, so we have to deal with those separately. So let's hit enter twice, and we'll click on this. We're going to create a new mask. We're going to use the brush this time. I need to turn on auto mask, and that should be a good size. And I'm going to click and drag. And since I have auto mask on, notice that it only selects the things that have the tone that matches what's underneath the plus sign. If I didn't have auto mask on, let me just show you that real quick. If I turn off auto mask and the circle goes outside of the mountains, watch what happens. See how it just selected up top there? We don't want that. So we've got the mountains selected, and I think they're going to need some dehaze and some darkening. So let's click on dehaze. Oh yeah, that looks better. We'll add some clarity too, and a little texture. That's made them a little dark, which is okay. We'll bring the exposure up. And let's see, temperature-wise, let's make them a little bit greener. Maybe a little more green. Do they want yellow or blue? Oh, they want yellow. Look at that. A little bit of yellow brings them to life. And we'll add... No, we're good, actually. Maybe a little bit more contrast to them. And a little more exposure and a little more contrast. Something about, I think about like that. Now that's looking pretty good. We've gone, if you stop and think what we've done, we've gone from there to there. Looks lovely. I did say I wanted the blue up in the sky to be a little bit darker. Let's try that. Let's hit enter to get rid of all this stuff and go to HSL. I'm going to bring the luminance or brightness of that sky color down. So I click on this, the pointer tool, click on this blue sky, and I'm going to drag down. Oh yeah, just to it'll darken all of those blues just a little bit. All right, is there anything else I need to do? Yes, there is. There's two important things to do. One, I'm going to add a vignette. So let's come down to Effects. My go-to number for my vignettes is -12. That's mine. You're welcome to share it. That looks good. And in fact, if I turn it on and off, you can see what that vignette does. It darkens the corners and recenters you in the image. However, I want to create a little more motion in this image. It's a little bit too square for me, even though it's a full frame of the shot. This one little rock poking up is maybe a little bit of a distraction, and I want to make it more vertical so it entices the viewer to look from the bottom up. So let's get the crop tool. And my two favorites for verticals are 16:9, which is lovely, which is what our TVs are, or if you're lucky enough to have a printer that prints on legal size paper, 14:8.5 is almost a 16:9. So I'm going to move this over a little bit. In fact, I might take a little bit off the top. Let's bring that in just a smidge, maybe a little off the bottom as well. And I'm just cropping out that rock. And let's hit enter on that. Now, the beauty of doing the vignette in Lightroom is that notice it's called a post-crop vignette. It follows the crop. So with my crop, I can turn it on and off, and you can see, look, the vignette followed the new crop. And, I really like that. Let's take a look at our before and after. We'll go to full screen. Just really a subtle, kind of a beautiful, peaceful image. And we took it from there to there. Now, I could be done, but I'm not quite. I just want to show you one other thing to add some more flavor if it's the kind of thing that interests you. Let's take this image and we're going to run it through under Edit in Viveza. Now, this is something you have to buy. It's from Nick. If you do a search on NIK filters, you'll come up with this entire set. And I'm going to run it through Nick Viveza. And there's just a couple of things I want to do to it that are going to add a little bit more definition and pop to the image. So here's our image in Viveza. You get this before and after slider. I'm just going to move it off. And what I want to add is some structure. So I'm going to come over to the structure slider. Oh, look what that does. Add some structure, maybe a smidge of saturation, and then maybe brighten it up a little bit. And now I can drag before and after, and look what just those little sliders did. Look what it did to the image. What a difference. So let's click on apply, and what that'll do is it'll create a new file that ends up back in Lightroom. So now let's look at all three. Let's go full screen. Here's our raw file. Here's our edit in Lightroom. You could be done there. It looks lovely. But then bringing it into Nick Viveza, it just adds that last little bit of pop. See, from there to there, that little added extra contrast to just make it really sing. So there you go, a simple yet powerful demo on what you can do with Lightroom to really bring back the life into your images. That's it for today. I will see you online again soon. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.